Ow! Ow!
Dr. Jones! Again, we see there is no film you can star in which I cannot spoil. This is Diabolic, the show where four long-suffering friends and one newly suffering guest dissect films' most dastardly schemes, then compete to improve them.
This week's movie is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So, Peril pals, grab your whip and your fedora, leave your classroom unattended, and let's get diabolical.
Welcome to this special episode. I'm your host, Craig, and it's my honour to introduce the Panel of Peril, who will compete against each other as we each try to come up with the best alternative plan for the villain of the week before we vote to crown the most diabolical. As ever, I'm joined by regular panel members Adam, Ben, and Gaz, and joining the Panel of Peril today, author, legendary music journo, comedy titan, Talking Heads nostalgia show stalwart, and Emmy Award-winning writer of Veep and the Thick of It, David Quantick.
Hello, Craig. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Now, as a guest panel member, we're required to conduct a psychological test to determine just how diabolical you are. In a moment, Ben will ask you some questions, but first, this podcast was very almost for Non-Bonds, a show that would have focused only on the rogues gallery of 007. Now, as the author of the Blagger's Guide to Bond, I was wondering, who is your favourite Bond villain and why?
Bond villain, crikey. There are so many of them. I'd have to say Grace Jones because she sat on my lap.
Wow, yeah.
She's up there. I'm also kind of fond of Jaws because I just imagine Ian Fleming coming back from the dead, and he said he can come back to Earth for one day, but he's not allowed to choose the Bond movie he watches. And he watches, I think, is it Octopussy where Jaws meets Mrs. Jaws?
I think it's
Moonraker.
It's Moonraker is absolutely dismal. And I think just making Ian Fleming and all the racism and the sexism sit through Moonraker, and everyone shouts, "That's you! You wrote this." If you think of James Bond in the books in Casino Royale, then you think of Richard Keel with his metal teeth.
Yeah.
I love Richard Keel, I love Jaws, but I don't think Ian Fleming would have.
Well, his books did get kind of increasingly campy as well. And I do remember reading somewhere once that he favoured Roger Moore, after David Niven. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what he made of him. But we did an episode on Moonraker and we all kind of loved it. I think because we have Daniel Craig grit fatigue, the kind of the Jason Bourne direction that it took, and we wanted some camp fun.
I can understand that.
But yeah, that's a solid choice. I think for me, my favourite would be a Scaramanga, because my brother also has a superfluous third nipple, which I always found very amusing.
That's exciting. And do you ever say to him, "How titillating"? Which is the only line I remember from that film. People don't like that film, do they? I don't really know why. I mean, it doesn't seem particularly worse than any of the others.
No, absolutely not. I always enjoyed it. Yeah.
He's got a Joe 90 gun made of bits of old tat. And there's an incredibly pointless kung fu practice scene.
Right.
They just practice kung fu, and then James Bond beats them all. And Lulu did the theme music.
Yes. Yeah, I like that song. Yeah. Isn't the kung fu practice session an excuse to have some mute Bond girls on display for Roger Moore to throw around? I think that's what happened.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I always needed one of those.
Lulu's the only person in the world who's had a hit single with two songs that begin with the words "The Man."
Oh. What's the other one?
"The Man Who Sold the World."
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know she'd done
Which also makes her a part of a very small club of Bond and Bowie people.
Yeah. This is where we're not quite as au fait with pop music and pop culture as you will be.
Well, I used to be, but I mean, these days. I feel like somebody going, I'm a weapons expert and I know all about S.H.I.E.L.D.
Anybody else got a favourite Bond villain?
Well, I'll jump in because mine's the same as yours, actually, Craig. Scaramanga. I've got a soft spot for Christopher Lee. I think it was the powder blue suit that did it for me.
Very good.
Baron Samedi for me, just because he's a bit of an icon, isn't he, in that whole movie, and manages to get away. So,
he's good.
Yeah.
It's kind of a cool Bond, that one, because it is blaxploitation is the thing they're doing. But they also managed to get in voodoo and stuff, which you didn't really get with kind of across 110th Street and films like that.
No.
Baron Samedi's great.
Yeah, even the Bond music in that film, like the incidental music feels kind of like blaxploitation stuff. It's like bordering on Shaft kind of theme music creeping in there. Little weird guitar riffs and stuff.
I think it's probably, you could say it was a kick up the arse for John Barry, because he'd been doing it for almost 10 years. You've got Beetle Bond, incredible crossover of Wings and that. I think it's one of those films that they really wanted it to be good in the normal meaning of the sense.
They actually wanted Thelma Houston to sing the Live and Let Die in the movie, where they have a band in the movie.
Oh, wow.
Cubby Broccoli wanted her to sing it, but George Martin got the wrong end of the stick because he said, I want Thelma Houston to sing the song after he got the demo from Wings. And he said, no. It's got to be Paul McCartney. It's got to be Paul McCartney. And he argued with it. And then, of course, years later, it turns out he had the wrong end of the stick. He just wanted the band in the film to be Thelma Houston.
Wow.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Wings, but I would have loved to have heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Gaz, did you have a favourite Bond villain? Probably not.
Well, I'm not as much of a Bond fan as the rest of the Panel of Peril, as we've mentioned many times.
Are you a Bond villain? Is this why? You're going, no, I don't really care for James Bond. My enemy, I will kill him.
He's the closest to it we've got, I think.
I'm just going to say Le Chiffre from Casino Royale.
Mm-hmm.
Due to his flaws, how pathetic he is at times. Played by Mads Mikkelsen, of course, the villain in this week's film, Dial of Destiny, who shares a lot of the same pathetic characteristics.
Mads Mikkelsen playing his character. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to be jolly or just look a bit annoyed about things? Maybe say something a bit racist and stab an underling.
Someone's got to do it.
It's a shame he's also a climate science denier, but we probably shouldn't start talking about
is he?
that.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
That's a rabbit hole that I do not want to go down today.
The thing is, no one expects scientists to be good at acting. But for some reason, everyone goes, what do you think about science? Man who pretends to be somebody else.
So this is a part of the show where we ask our guests some scientifically determined questions to find out how diabolical they are. David, like a Rorschach test, please answer honestly and with the first thing that pops into your head.
Okay.
Dennis the Menace or Roger the Dodger?
I think Roger, because everything about him, from his name to his look with the slicked back hair and the clothes, he's going to end up being a pimp or a gigolo. He's really got that kind of the bloke who hangs around 1930s hotels looking for lonely spinsters to dance with. Yeah, there's something that appeals to me about that. Dennis the Menace was the kid who used to beat me up at school, so, sod him.
I've never thought that about Roger before, but now I'll never be able to unthink it.
He is. I've got real sympathy with Roger. He's cunning and twisted and slimy, and in a fight he would run away.
Yeah.
But he's going to be all right in life. He'll find a way.
Well, I hope so.
He always got his comeuppance, didn't he? I remember one that really stuck in my mind is where he tricked two street vendors, one out of hot tomato soup and one out of cold ice cream, and he ate them together and he got a stomachache. And I always thought that was a bit of a weird moral lesson for a kid's comic, but it's always stuck with me.
Imposed morality. He probably marries, I think he probably marries Minnie the Minx.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're probably very happy together.
Or pimps for her, perhaps.
Oh, God. Well, I wish I hadn't said that now. A whole stable of female Beano. Not just female. Probably Lord Snooty and his friends. Some weird kind of Aleister Crowley type mansion.
Malcolm Tucker or Selena Myers?
Oh, yes. I have written for them both. So I like Selena the best because she's just such a loser. Malcolm Tucker gets his comeuppance in the end, but that he'll just end up being on Twitter and getting asked on talk shows. Selena Meyer doesn't know that she's crap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
She has no. Malcolm Tucker's got self-awareness. Selena Meyer doesn't have self-awareness.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of sympathise with that. Selena Meyer always reminds me of the Thick of It character, actually Nicola Murray, played by Rebecca Front.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because she has a great moment where she's absolutely making a bollocks of everything, and she suddenly stops and goes, "This is why nobody likes me, isn't it?" And it was such a brilliant moment of self-realisation. But Selena will never have that.
Yeah.
Baron Greenback or Rob Brydon?
Oh, God. I'm going to go for Rob because this is my showbiz story. He does an impression of me. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Go on then.
This is Rob Brydon's impression of me. Or
He's nailed it.
Well observed.
yeah, it's just like me. I love Baron Greenback, and he's got a daughter. So he's a kind family man in a lot of ways, even though his daughter's appalling. And he has the most stereotypical assistant of all time. The apparently Italian crow, whose name escapes me. But yeah, I think there's something deeply sinister about Rob. I used to know Rob Brydon when he was like a rep actor at Radio 4 when they did topical shows with sketches in, and he would be, it's like, Prime Minister, come in. It's like, yes, yeah, he's great, but sinister.
Yeah. I think we're all big fans, being from Wales.
Of course. He's definitely Welsh, Rob.
Oh, yes.
What did you think of his turn as the older, kind of sleazier Ken in Barbie?
Fantastic. Just really quite... Because I knew he was in the film, because I'd seen pictures of him, but me and my wife just literally shouted, "It's Rob," as everyone in the world did. Even people who don't know who he is. Even people in Texas going, "It's Rob Brydon."
I know I did.
I was once at a house party with some people staying in Edinburgh for an Edinburgh show, and we all got very drunk and danced all night. And Rob, who doesn't drink, came out of his room like a mum. And he was like, "What do you think you're doing? I'm trying to get to sleep." And then literally someone put on Tom Jones and he started dancing. And he danced the night away.
Greg's vegan or meat sweepings sausage roll?
Good question. Which is the most diabolical?
Exactly.
Well, I think I've had a Greg's vegan and it was all right.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of meat sweepings. I'd say they're more evil because the Greg's vegan sausage roll does not pose as something else. It says sausage in its name, but it admits by the word vegan that it's not really sausage. Whereas a meat sweeping sausage roll does not advertise itself as old bits of beak and scrotum. So yeah, the villain there is definitely meat sweepings. I don't have any anecdotes about sausage rolls, sorry.
Or Greg's.
Or Greg's, no. Although I did, for a brief while when it was almost funny, have a Greg's sweatshirt. And I once had to go into Greg's wearing it, and I felt so bad. Like I was just taking the piss out of the staff. But I was also secretly hoping they might ask me to help.
If you could steal any writing credit from history and get away with it, what would it be? Goodness,
that's a good question. Yeah, because I feel like I've stolen a lot of writing credits anyway. A lot of shows I worked on, I only had one joke on. But thanks to the foolish laws of Britain, you get your name on them. I don't know. I mean, Faulty Towers, Porridge. Actually, no, America. Roseanne or Frasier.
Yeah.
Just absolute peak quality 80s American sitcoms. I really think, there's a lot of British good ones, but I really think the peak of sitcoms is the 1980s American sitcom. So any of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Fostered great talents such as Joss Whedon and Norm Macdonald on Roseanne. I'm not sure about this Frasier reboot. I hope it's good because I love Frasier, but
who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, your life depends on erasing the entire back catalogue of one artist or band. Who do you pick?
God, can I pick everybody? Almost everybody. I don't know. There's loads of people. I mean, it sounds a bit of an odd quandary, really, because it's like, I'd love to erase the back catalogue of an artist. It's not like that horrible proposal with the man in China, where you get £1 million just for killing one man.
Right. No downside.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, ELO comes to mind just because their back catalogue is basically the Beatles' Blue album. So, yeah, that might be one.
Poor Jeff Lynne.
Jeff Lynne. His entire career is based on standing next to someone else. He's like the Matthew Corbett of rock.
And finally, on a scale of 1 to 10, how delighted were you with the controversy around the Brass Eye Petergeddon episode?
Oh, definitely 10. That was a lot of fun. That was a great deal of fun because I had me and my right partner, Jane Busman, we had our addresses printed in the News of the World. And yeah, it was exciting. And the best bit was we were referred to as the creators of Brass Eye because I wasn't famous. So anytime I got quoted, I was like, I actually got an email from Chris saying, "How are you, oh creator of Brass Eye?" I think he was a bit pissed off, actually. No, I loved it. It was really exciting to be in that program. I'll always defend it, even the dodgy jokes. But it was the peak.
Yeah. Did you write the Quasarospad's wrong cock joke?
No, again, me and Jane got a credit for writing. I thought I had one joke in it, which is the concept of 1,000 paedophile island, but Jane thought it was her joke. So I do know one writer whose name I won't mention because he's now so controversial, but Chris told me that apparently he basically said, "I don't want anything to do with this show. You can't get me to work on it."
Okay.
So it was that scary. But no, it was just, we'd done the rest of Brass Eye, and Chris was like, "I'm going to do paedophilia." Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
What took you so long?
Fantastic.
It's very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember the media did not get it at all.
It was a show about the pornography of the media.
Mm-hmm.
There were all these shows on at the time that were like, "Here comes the paedophile." It was like, basically, you're exploiting paedophilia and trying to make it sexy. So that's what the show was about.
Yeah. And also getting celebrities who will just say anything if they think they're doing it for a good cause. I think that was a great feature of Brass Eye. Yeah. You know, I'm talking nonsense.
If you're watching it, Bernard Manning absolutely knows that he's being set up. You can tell from he either doesn't give a fuck about charity at all, but he clearly thinks he's just, he doesn't know what's going on, but he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's a fucking disgrace.
Jane Busman was the one who said that cake should be the size of a cake. Chris said there's this drug called cake. And Jane said, and it should be that big, like a cake.
That's genius.
Amazing.
There are just so many great moments throughout that series.
Yeah. It's one of it's still on physical copy. I've still got it and I still watch it every year or so. It's just timeless.
I'm very, very proud to be slightly involved with that show. Yeah. And everyone thinks I wrote it, so it's even better.
All right, so I've totted up all the answers there, and it seems you are pretty diabolical. So I'm going to give you an 8 floret broccoli rating.
Thank you very much. That's a lot of florets and a lot of broccolis.
Yeah.
Just for comparison, Goldfinger, he got 4 florets. So you probably double the diabolical level of Auric Goldfinger.
That is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I am very happy with that. Thank you, Ben.
Bit of a holdover from being Bond, of course, the old cubby broccoli. At least I think so. I think that's why he chose broccoli. We don't go into it too deeply.
No.
It's probably best not to ask too many questions at this point.
As our special guest, yours was the choice of film, and you chose Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the 5th and latest and reputedly final installment in the popular franchise, and the first to be made without credits for regular director and writer team Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. In it, reluctant hero Indy is tasked with preventing Nazi astrophysicist Jürgen Voller, aka Dr. Schmidt, from obtaining the titular MacGuffin, an artifact that once belonged to Archimedes that allows its user to navigate fissures in time, which the baddie plans to use to alter the course of the Second World War. Alas, Schmidt and Jones proved to be divisive among critics and cinema goers, but what did we make of it? David, what did you think of Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny?
I really loved it. I'd read, not any reviews, but I'd read the comments on social media and all that kind of thing, and just thought, I'll just give it a go. Mm-hmm. So I downloaded it, and I'd seen all the films, and I thought Crystal Skull was think I said somewhere, it was like when a band get back together in the 90s and they all look terrible and the original singer's dead, so they get his cousin in and they try too hard. And I hated the Crystal Skull. So I had really, really no expectations, and I really loved it. It wasn't overdone in the retro stuff.
Yeah.
There weren't too many references like Doctor Who that you had to get a flipping notepad and go, oh, actually, that's a famous line from this. It wasn't stuffed with former stars. I thought it was really well done. People complaining about the supernatural element. They're like, have you not seen an Indiana Jones film? They're all about pixies. Every single one of them is about magic.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It was really moving. Harrison Ford was allowed to be dignified and kind of self-effacing. Phoebe Waller-Bridge was really good. She was not annoying. No more annoying than the character was. It was a really good story. It was a balmy ending, but they're all balmy endings. So I thought it was really great.
I had to take my hat off for that ending because it was gutsy as well. You could worry about doing something like that, but bringing the archaeologist into history and letting him experience it, I thought was kind of romantic.
Yeah.
I loved the recreation of the "Where Does It Hurt" kiss scene. A lot of people have said that turned them right off, but I can't understand that. I thought that was perfect.
It's brilliant. Lovely nostalgia.
Acted so well. And as for Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I think she's a perfect, she looks kind of like a fictionalized Amelia Earhart type. And for me, her performance was brilliant, and I thought she was a great addition.
I totally agree.
That ending was the brave choice, actually, because it would have been so easy to have stopped it just before he got through the fissure.
Right.
You could have had Indy stopping them getting through.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah. So I thought that was quite brave.
Do you know of a thing about the 5-act structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a thing that if you've got 5 acts in a film, and if you stop a film in the middle of Act 3, at that moment, it's like a party trick. The film will tell you what it's about.
Yeah.
So in the film Yesterday by Richard Curtis and that, the middle scene is the hero talking to his girlfriend who wants him to stay, and he wants to go to LA and be a songwriter. That's what the film's really about.
Right.
And Indiana Jones, if you stop it in the middle, it's the scene where he suddenly says to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, what would you do if you could go back in time? And that's what the film was about.
Right.
And he's like, I'd tell my son not to do this.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant because that's what happens. That's his dilemma. He wants to stay. He's in his kind of heaven. He wants to cut himself off from humanity, go back in time, live in a fantasy. And she says, no, come back to the real world. There's a thing in writing, what you need versus what you want. This is what he wants, but it's not what he needs. It's absolutely perfect, the ending.
That could have been a danger for the film writers as well, as they could have fallen into that trap of, as you say, they quite handily avoid the nostalgia traps, which they could have lent on completely. And it's kind of similar. Do you want to live in the past and forget and ignore the challenge that you've got ahead of you? And I think they rose to it and came up with something that felt really fresh to me. And the other thing as well, in Crystal Skull, you said Harrison Ford gets to carry himself with dignity in this, and they made so many allusions to his age in Crystal Skull. It's like a running gag. And in this, there's one maybe, and it's accepted that he's Indiana Jones. It doesn't matter if he's 80 years old.
It's great. Pretty much the first time you see him, he's almost naked. And it's like, there we go, deal with it.
Yeah, it's grumpiest as well, screaming at his neighbours.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so grumpy. He's so funny when he's grumpy.
He's hilarious, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's so cute, Harrison Ford. He's got that lovely wonky smile. But when he's grumpy, he's... But at the very end of the film, they showed him as weak and defeated, and that was really brave of him as an actor to do that.
Yeah, he really sells that scene. How about you, Adam?
Well, I was going to say the same as pretty much as David. I went in with zero expectations. I didn't like Crystal Skull. And I was like sat there. I thought, come on, let's get through this, Adam. Let's get through it. And I fucking loved it. It was brilliant.
I like Crystal Skull.
Yeah, but I agree with, was it you, Ben, that said about his age? They focused on his age. Somebody said about his age.
I think it was Craig,
and they did, and that's it, and that's my lasting memory of it. And then I didn't like the aliens and shit like that. And I thought, here we go again. And then when it opened, and I knew there was some CGI wizardry with his face and stuff like that. And I've seen an interview with him talking about they mapped They mapped him, and I was like, okay. It started off, and I thought, this is really good, but I'm still on the fence about it all. And then it got to, I've got it here, about an hour and 10 minutes, and I just thought, I'm really starting to enjoy this. And then it was just the stuff like the diving.
Yeah.
It's just everything. It was just, and I just said, it's just like a tick box indie film. Yeah, got this, got the whip, got the shooting, got the bugs and stuff. Yeah, that's Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
Got the methane and stuff in a darkened tunnel. That's Last Crusade with the petrol. And I was just like, fucking hell, what a film! What a film!
Yeah. Like I said before, it was a bit of a greatest hits, but there are enough kind of fresh takes on it, even with the eels rather than the snakes.
Yeah.
I think it just had some really nice little tweaks to it to make it feel fresh.
Yeah, the little twist there.
I'd say for me, the only issue I had with it is that there's a lot of great stunt work, but some of it's sort of undone by the amount and at times the quality of the CG. So you never really feel that there's any real danger, which you used to with the older films.
Yeah, definitely. The stunt work in the old films, Vic Armstrong, I think he's called, is brilliant and really you can feel it. And there are times in this when the contortions of the digital face map don't quite, they're uncanny, aren't they? But
exactly.
But you know,
suspend
your disbelief for a guy who can survive a nuclear explosion in a fridge, and I let all that go, let it wash over me. Well, what did we think about Mads Mikkelsen in this role? Do we think that he's a good villain?
Yeah, I really liked him because he had that kind of irritated quality. It was as though, the desire to bring fascism to the world and to rid the world of democracy and diversity was basically because he just wanted everyone to shut up. He just seemed annoyed by it. He was like, oh, God, here comes someone else. Oh, democracy. Oh, God. Since he wants to go back to Rome, he wanted to go back to kill Hitler because he just found Hitler annoying. Oh, that wanker. Why won't everyone just leave me alone? No, he was really good.
I thought that was a really interesting dynamic for him to be a Nazi who hates Hitler.
Yeah, that was really clever. And of course, there is the kind of, Hitler, you need Strasser, whoever he was. You need a different kind of better Nazi or worse Nazi and all that kind of thing. That line was a bit thrown away. It's like, what? We're going to a fishery in time. You're going to do what? Kill Hitler. What? Did you? I thought you said kill Hitler. I did. Why are you going to? Could you not have mentioned this before? We could have had a chat about it.
Yeah.
All this stuff. It was a bizarre plan.
Yeah.
And it's like, you imagine the list of Nazi plans. It's probably at the back. It says kill Hitler's quite in the middle of the book with a drawing of Hitler being hanged and his tongue out.
I like that he wasn't the most intelligent villain either. He didn't seem on top of anything to do with the Dial of Destiny, the means to travel back in time. Just constantly surprised when he's given information by Indy and Hannah. Just, oh, really? Okay. Constantly sort of adjusting.
Yeah, and she tricks him very easily with the riddle of where the dial is, Archimedes' clues that he left. So yeah, he's very out of his element, isn't he?
Someone who spent, I don't know how long it is, 25 to 30 years planning this.
Yeah.
You imagine somebody go, tectonic plates. He's like, oh, no, I knew there was something. I had it written, I knew it. Tectonic. Why did I not think about that?
The amount of times I've been undone by tectonic plates.
As we learned nothing from the history of geology.
No. I think as it transpires at the end, the dial was always set to the 212 BC date, and it was done intentionally by Archimedes in order to bring help back to the siege of Syracuse. So I think that Indy was kind of bluffing his way through a continental drift there. It doesn't make sense that it would alter where a hole in time in the sky was anyway, I don't think.
I'm not really familiar with time fissures, to be honest.
I'd say it makes sense. Perfect sense.
Yeah.
That was one part that I just thought, I'll just accept that. Move on.
It was worth it, Jojo, because Mads Mikkelsen, who's not exactly an expressive-faced actor, did some really good, I've really fucked this up. I forgot the wife's birthday faces. It was really sinking dread that he had lost, and it was very satisfying because he'd been so smug throughout.
Yeah. Does anybody have any favourite moments from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
The raiding of Archimedes' tomb is proper classic Indiana Jones for me. Moving cobwebs out the way, puzzles to open doors, water chutes leading down, bugs. Having to make a torch out of a rag and a bit of oil that happens to be lying around. That's Indiana Jones for me. That's the primary memory of my childhood watching Indiana Jones. And it has to be in there to make it.
Absolutely.
There's loads of bits of nostalgia like that for the other films, isn't there? And my favourite bit was another one where he gets the whip out, whips it everywhere, get back! And everybody pulls the pistols out and he ducks. And again, it's just like classic Indy for me.
I think my two favourite bits, for different reasons, are one, the big parade scene when he gets on a horse, because it's just like, they're going, we know it's 1968, whatever, all these things are going on. Indiana Jones is just going to get on a horse and ride off.
He's oblivious to the moon landing.
It's just brilliant. It's like, they're really making a point. The future is here, but there's Indiana Jones on a horse. And the second bit is really to do with my dislike of John Williams, because I don't like John Williams' work. I don't like his themes. And what I love is that he's like a dog. Every time he sees a vehicle in the film, he starts the Indiana Jones theme. Da, 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 da. It's like Phoebe Waller-Bridge gets on the top. Da, 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 it's off. Someone sees a bread van. Da, da, he's off. It's like, no, John, not now, John. Every opportunity, a fly moves its leg. Here it comes.
Hold, John. Hold.
Ben?
Yeah, I think it feels a little bit like Indiana Jones' greatest hits at times. So there's a lot, the train top fight, the fancy bar brawl, short round 2.0. But I'm going to go for one that's a little bit offbeat, and it's Toby Jones in that little German hat.
It does suit him.
I love it. It's amazing. If I were Toby Jones, I'd be wearing that everywhere.
My favourite sequence is the dive sequence, and it's mainly because Antonio Banderas, he's so great in this. He's like a Hergé character.
Yeah.
He's just such a classic sailor guy. I think it's hilarious, and I think he's so good.
Brilliant.
If they were doing another one, I would have preferred him not to get killed off, because he's one of those guys that you'd like to see coming back.
Yeah,
that was a bit annoying when they killed him off.
Yeah, I gasped.
Yeah,
because I know, it's like, he wanted to be in it and he took a smaller part, but it's like, you don't get him in and kill him.
No.
Yeah,
they should have killed the pretend Egyptian bloke from Lord of the Rings. His time had come.
Jonathan Rhys-Davies.
Salah.
He's the other climate science denier, but we won't get into that again.
And also, I like the fact that he's they don't say anything like he's from Egypt. He's just sort of goes, "Oh, Indy, here are my kids who are from Egypt. I am a nondescript generic person who is not racially dubious because I am a neutral figure from nowhere land."
He's just a cameo for the sake of it.
There was no need to bring him back.
He walks on, he says hello, and that's it.
I think he turned down the Crystal Skull because he wasn't given enough to do.
Right.
I read that on Wikipedia, but in this he clearly reached his quota of lines.
Yeah. I think he was only supposed to be in the wedding scene in Crystal Skull, which was a very brief scene. But it was such a pointless return for him. I didn't understand why he did that. It could have been Ke Huy Quan, who's having a bit of a comeback, and I think fans would have been more pleased to see him.
Would have been nice.
That's the only thing missing from this movie is a little guest from him.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might have slightly overwhelmed it because it's died down a bit, but it was pretty much short round fever after Everything Everywhere.
It was, yeah.
It would have ended up being like Short Round, the movie, Short Round and the Dial of Destiny, starring Indiana Jones. Where are we going today, Short Round?
Yeah.
I'd quite like to see that, though. Maybe next time around.
You probably will, now that Harrison Ford will no longer be with us acting-wise.
He says that. We'll see.
No, he can't live forever. It doesn't matter what he says. At some point, he will not be able to do it.
He can now that they've digitally mapped his young face.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
He's making 500 Marvel films now.
Well, one day they will just be AI movies and they will just be weird.
Yeah. Now, before we offer up our own diabolical plans for your consideration, if you're new to the podcast and you're enjoying it, please like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you can. It helps us keep making these and keeps us from turning our hands to grave robbing.
In Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Dr. Voller's diabolical plan is to recover Archimedes' eponymous Antikythera mechanism and travel back in time to the beginnings of the Second World War to assassinate and usurp Adolf Hitler and lead Germany to victory. Ultimately, Voller's efforts are seemingly foiled by continental drift, meaning the dial steers him towards a fissure in time that leads back to the siege of Syracuse in 212 BC and not to 1939 as he intended. But how did the Panel of Peril rate Voller's plan? Was it a diabolical concept, and how well was it pulled off? And I think we've kind of covered this, but just to recap, David, what did you think of Voller's plan?
It was a terrible plan.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring the Nazis to power, killing the chief Nazi. It's not like Nazism isn't like a philosophy. It's like something a mad bloke invented so that he could dress up and kill people.
Right.
You know, if you kill Karl Marx, you'll stop communism in some form. If you kill Hitler, you've just killed a bloke. It was a terrible plan in that respect. And you kill Hitler, then what happens? You take over the Nazis, you get Goering or Himmler to take over. Have they not seen The Man in the High Castle? Nazism without Hitler.
This is the part of the show where the Panel of Peril compete for the title of Most Diabolical. We'll each vote for our favourite, and at the end, the person with the most votes will be crowned the winner of this special episode. First, let's hear from our special guest, David Quantick.
My alternative plan is very simple. He's got this opportunity. He's got a flipping Heinkel bomber, I do believe. He's flying back in time with a bunch of German soldiers with guns. He's the world's top scientist. Has no one read A Connecticut Yankee in the Court of King Arthur? He's introducing modern technology into a world that, never mind all this Greek fire stuff. If Archimedes could defeat the Romans, I'm pretty sure a platoon of Nazi soldiers with an aeroplane could do worse. Basically, what I'm saying is he flies to Rome, takes over the Roman Empire, much more logical pursuit, and then conquers the world. And he doesn't have to worry about diversity and stuff like that because they're the Roman Empire. They're quite Nazi already.
And they're quite diverse. You know, they've got troops from all of the countries they've conquered, and they're Roman now.
That's true. I mean, he'd probably have to sort that out and make people unhappy again.
Yeah.
And they are kind of pantheistic again, which I believe is not a very Nazi thing.
No. All right, next, let's hear from Ben.
Dr. Ruddy Voller stands in line, clutching 2 oversized suitcases. He taps his foot. Why does check-in always take so long? Finally, he's called to the ticket counter. Ooh, the Maldives, says the smartly dressed staff. Just 2 bags, is it? Dr. Ruddy Voller nods and places them on the conveyor. Ooh, this one feels empty, says the staff, lifting one of the cases above her head. For souvenirs, replies Dr. Ruddy Voller. Upon arrival at the Maldives airport, Dr. Ruddy Voller collects his bags and steps outside. A Limburger grin spreads across his face faster than risque gossip at a coffee morning. It's everywhere. The object of his desires is quite literally everywhere. He hurriedly packs his empty suitcase full of exotic matter. From there, it's a relatively simple task to create a stable, traversable wormhole connecting the present with 1939. Once back in olden days Berlin.
Just wave that on.
Yeah, just gloss over that bit. Once back in olden days Berlin, phase 2 of his plan kicks into action. Dr. Ruddy Voller uses his standing among the Nazis to get close to Hitler's inner circle. He then shares just one nugget of tactical information that helps the senior leaders to a small but important victory. And as he ingratiates himself further and further, he shares more information that helps the Nazis campaign. When finally he's asked how he's doing it, he makes up some bullshit about harnessing Archimedean cycles to infallibly predict the future. He also throws in a few references to ancient Aryan mysticism and the lost city of Atlantis for good measure. With their fascination with the occult, the Nazis gobble this shit up. And soon Dr. Ruddy Voller meets the Fuhrer himself and becomes his most trusted advisor. Once Dr. Ruddy Voller's reputation as a vital cog in the Nazi machine is beyond refute, he announces with deep regret that his divinations have shown that Germany will lose the war and that Hitler will be responsible. Knowing by now that Dr. Rudi Voller is in fact the true brains behind the operation, the senior leaders execute Hitler and name Dr. Rudi Voller as their new Führer. Dr. Rudi Voller sits on his new throne and chuckles. Hindsight really is the best medicine, he says aloud to no one in particular.
I've got one question. Who's Dr. Rudi Voller?
I forgot what the guy's real name was and I wasn't going to check it, so I just went with Rudi Voller.
Was Rudi Voller a footballer?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he was like an 80s, 90s footballer, wasn't he?
Footballer, yeah. A midfielder.
So, what's in the Maldives?
Exotic matter.
Why is it in? Is that because the Maldives is the most exotic place you can think of?
Oh, they're very exotic. Have you seen the sea? Crystal clear.
Exactly.
Well,
yeah.
I can get pineapple chunks from my local supermarket, so that's exotic enough for me, fella.
I love the idea of building a wormhole out of pineapple chunks.
I'm more of a dried mango man myself.
I looked into how you can create a wormhole, and one of the theories that might have been Einstein came up with was that you use this unproven matter called exotic matter. And I thought, well, where would you find this matter? The most exotic place on Earth, the Maldives. Logic, my friend.
Well, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Adam, can we hear your plan next?
Time travel, eh? It's not exactly rocket science. Or is it? As we see in the film, the USA has just landed on the moon. What an achievement! And they did so with the help of some rather unsavoury people, namely Nazis. Former Nazi Party member and SS Sturmbannführer Werner von Braun was flown out of Germany at the end of the war during Operation Paperclip to live unpunished in the United States. Von Braun was an integral part of the V2 rocket program in Peenemünde, which rained down death and terror in Europe in the latter phases of the Second World War, which killed 5,000 people in raids and approximately 10,000 slave workers from concentration camps. He was key in helping the United States beat the Soviets to the moon. As Voller has already become involved with the equally insidious CIA, he finds locating and contacting von Braun little trouble. With access to the most high-tech space travel technology available in those days, von Braun is in perfect place to assist. Voller, with the help of the evil von Braun, copy a gyroscopic pinpoint calculation navigation system that is used in the moon mission. That helps them to negate the continental shift that plagues Voller in the original plot, which lands them in deep poodoo. This time, with the course corrections provided with von Braun's gizmo, Voller is able to correctly navigate space-time and return to 1939 to eliminate Hitler. And, I predict, leaves a vacuum of power within the Nazi Party that sees Germany rip itself apart in a bitter, narcissistic civil war among the Nazi hierarchy, thus delaying the war and allowing the Allies time to prepare for Germany's acts of aggression, saving millions of lives in the process. As someone once said, von Braun aimed for the stars, but occasionally hit London.
That's interesting, but doesn't the end of your plan there, it's not very diabolical, is it, if the Allies are able to...
Well, he goes back and kills Hitler, but I'm just predicting beyond that and saying...
Okay, so his plan works, but his outcome is terrible still. Yeah.
At that point, Hitler's the unifying figure. So they're all clamoring to be Hitler's best mate all the time, aren't they? All the hierarchy. So when he goes, it's curtains for them, basically, for them all. And then they just tear each other apart.
So he teams up with Werner von Braun, and
yeah.
They use some of the science they've learned from calculating the trajectory for basically landing on the moon.
Correct.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
I thought maybe somebody else might say that. So I was a bit like, is it going to be two of us with the same plan?
No one was going to say that. What are you on about?
The only thing, as I said, is that in the film, what it actually reveals later is that the Antikythera doesn't actually show you where any time visit anywhere is, it literally is just a beacon for bringing some help back to that particular battle. So Archimedes intentionally sets, and he says like he will always come in here, and he knows that because he's the one who is going to program the dial to bring somebody back there to help him.
Time
Time loop, indeed. Yeah. Oh, the other thing as well.
Yeah.
The fact that they bring the future tech back to the Roman Empire. The plane that crashes, at the start, they've got the spear of Longinus that pierced Christ, and they say it's a fake because it's made of an alloy that won't exist. It's made out of the plane, isn't it? That's what it is. This is real.
Question for you, Adam. Would putting another Nazi in the mix, would that be helpful? Would that cause a little bit of friction? Nazi friction?
Yeah, fucking they love it, don't they? Well, really, that's what they're there for, isn't it? All about the racism and superpowers.
So you think they'd be bonded by their love of racist behaviour?
I love racism. Do you love racism? Yeah, I do.
Me too. Let's work together.
Oh, darling, your racism's so hot today. Oh, so yeah, they'd fucking love it. It'd be like meeting like an old colleague from the Rotary Club that you haven't seen for 20 years. You can't help but want to play backgammon with them.
I've never been to a Rotary Club.
Well, you wouldn't know them, would you?
I don't like merry-go-rounds. I won't be going to a Rotary Club.
Well, you just have to get off this crazy merry-go-round then, won't you? And cease with your questions.
That was the most Nazi line you've ever said. Cease with the questions.
Cease, lies!
You will cease with these questions, Mr. Jones.
Let's hear from Gaz next.
Voller knows that Hitler is the reason the Reich was toppled and so plans to eliminate him. Will he try to travel back to 1939 and assassinate Hitler? No. He may not be the brightest spark, but he knows that any scientific endeavour is subject to innumerable variables, and so simply accepts that he can travel back in time to who knows where. Also, assassinating Hitler's probably going to be well hard. Instead, he hires Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun lookalikes with open minds and supplies them with details of a photo shoot to be conducted in a swank hotel room. Next, he steals Walt Disney's cryogenic chamber, pausing only to discard the popsicled corpse of Uncle Walt down the nearest toilet. When the two halves of the Dial of Destiny are reunited, as in the film, Voller flies through the fissure and, upon seeing the siege of Syracuse taking place, launches a capsule with the photographs in. Having the coordinates of Hitler's evil lair programmed in, it acts as a sort of high school time capsule, burying its way underground, ready to be unearthed in roughly 2,000 years' time. Voller safely lands the plane and manages to get the cryogenic chamber to the cave of Dionysius, and once he's connected the everlasting battery that I definitely mentioned earlier, he freezes, ready to emerge in 1939. Unfortunately, being a bit of a dunce, he set the timer wrong and re-emerges in 1940. Once defrosted and towelled off, Voller makes his way to Germany to find that Hitler has been executed by his own men. Why? Some photos were unearthed from a beeping capsule underground which contained photos of him being vigorously pegged by Eva Braun. Quite the no-no in Nazi Germany by all accounts. Voller then supplies the master race with the schematics and formula for the atom bomb, and hurrah! The Nazis have won the war.
Right, what the fuck happened there? I got body doubles, cryo Walt Disney, pegging.
I think you got the gist of it.
Yeah. So you've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it.
Yeah.
Hitler's final words as well would also be, it's like living here.
I get it.
Batshit. Absolute batshit. Batshit, but very good. I like it.
You can't argue with historical fact, Turner.
No.
My question is, obviously, that siege of Syracuse is quite famous. And I imagine there was a lot of archaeological digging done in that area. What happens if those photos are unearthed before the time?
The photos aren't in the place that the siege takes place, they fly off to Germany.
Oh, they just fly off to Germany. Okay.
Yeah, it's got the coordinates programmed in. Imagine Krang's vehicle that's like a big tank with a drill on the end. Technodrome, yeah. So it flies off to Germany and burrows underground, and it's got a timer set to start beeping to attract attention in 1939.
Okay.
Technodrome, fucking hell.
Makes total sense.
Thank you.
I'll bring us home with my plan. Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Jürgen Voller stepped into the quantum leap accelerator and vanished. He awoke to find himself facing a mirror image that was not his own. Chaplain moustache, greasy side sweep, unmistakably the Fuhrer. Startling as it was to gaze into a mirror and see another man's face, his attention was quickly diverted by the sudden appearance of a brilliant white rectangle in his peripheral vision, from which emerged a US naval officer holding some kind of futuristic Lego device. A weapon? Voller span on Hitler's heels and drew his Walther PPK like a shit James Bond. Several years earlier, several decades in the future, Voller had encountered two scientists with the improbable names Gushy and Sam Beckett through his position in Operation Paperclip. Long having abandoned his search for Archimedes Dial, Voller's interest in time travel had reignited once more, and his scientific mind helped them launch Project Quantum Leap way ahead of schedule. Now, standing in the gents' toilet at the Burgerbrau Keller, he could not recall those events, or how he got here, or even who he was. He fired his gun at the US Navy man, but was shocked to see the bullet pass through him and into the wall. "What are you doing, Schmidt?" protested Al. "It's me, Al. You're lucky I'm a hologram, only you can see or hear." Al? Schmidt? Memory started to return to Voller. The beer hall putsch. He knew now why he was here. To put wrong what once went right. Al smacked his screaming Lego calculator. "Oh no! Ziggy says there's a 98% chance your brain is German cheesed from the leap." "You mean Swiss cheesed?" "No, I mean German cheesed." Voller perceived his mission was going to be a success.
It's just quantum leap, isn't it, really?
Yeah, he uses the quantum leap accelerator to go into Hitler. So instead of killing Hitler, he becomes Hitler, which I think is a more elegant thing to do because he knows where Hitler went wrong. But Hitler also is a charismatic leader, and he already has the favour of the Nazi Party and the German people. Whereas for Voller to kill Hitler and then try and become the new Führer or put someone else in the place of the Führer is too much of a gamble. That might not, people might not accept a different Führer.
I see.
The beauty of Project Quantum Leap is that he leaps into the Hitler and just, takes over his life and does things right.
Tell me about the premise of Quantum Leap as you understand it.
The premise of Quantum Leap is that one can time travel within one's own lifetime. And in Quantum Leap, there's kind of a force guiding Sam to put right what once went wrong. There's also an evil leaper.
Is he choosing where he goes, or?
No, the force is guiding him. And the evil leaper gets guided to undo what Sam has fixed. So there's always a force that guides the person. But in the context of this, the force that's guiding Voller is the force of Nazi power in the universe and its desire to fulfill itself. So it sends him back to the right place.
Oh, that's neat. That's very neat. And sorry, the first episode of Quantum Leap, when was that set? I forget. 1968, was it?
Doesn't matter when the first episode was set because you time travel within your own lifetime. And Voller's lifetime.
It's Voller's lifetime.
Yeah, but he jumps into a machine, right? Scott Bakula.
So in Quantum Leap, the Quantum Leap Accelerator project is finished in the 80s. But I'm saying with Voller's expertise, if he meets Gushy, he can get the project finished in the 60s. Or it doesn't have to be in the 60s, actually. It could still be the 80s. Because what I said is...
Because it's still in his lifetime. Okay, fair.
Yeah, he's abandoned his search for Archimedes Dial. So this doesn't have to happen in the 60s. This can happen in the 80s, long after he's not bothered meeting Indiana Jones.
Fair. All right.
Yes.
You've covered all the bases there, so I'm very happy.
So there you go. We've had David's Roman conquest. We've had Ben's Führer usurper. We've had Adam's NASA control center. We've had Gaz's pegging and cryogenic freezing. And we've had my quantum leap. Now it's time to vote. We'll each vote for our favourite, and then whoever has the most votes will be crowned the winner. So let's start with Ben. If you're ready, who did you vote for?
I voted for David because it was the only one I could understand.
And Adam, you look keen. Who did you vote for?
I voted for Gaz for the exact opposite reasons.
Okay. And Gaz?
I voted for David because his plan made the most sense to me within the context of the film that we all watched.
Yes. Much as I respect you all, I've also voted for David because you can't argue with
bootlickers.
Well, the Roman Empire is a much better prize than, Nazi Germany, and that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So, and David, which of our terrible plans did you think was the most worthy?
I did think about voting for myself, but
it's against the rules.
I voted for you, Craig, because
thank you.
Quantum Leap is nice.
I do enjoy Quantum Leap. Thank you so much once again for joining us this week and for being our very first guest panel member. And now we'd like to give you the mic. So tell us, where can our listeners enjoy more of your diabolical mind?
In the time of Archimedes, I think. No, I haven't got much going on at the moment, but you can follow me on Twitter at Quantick still, and I've got a website that I put short stories on and events coming up, which is www.davidquantick.com, surprisingly enough. And I'm hoping to get more books published in the future, but at the moment, I'm just pottering along. So thank you so much for having me. It's been a very entertaining hour. Really enjoyed it. And I clearly don't get to talk to people much these days because of the amount of enthusiasm I have for this format. So thanks again. It's a great show.
And that wraps up this special episode with absolutely nobody wishing they could go back in time and undo anything. Thank you for listening, and if you want to live in the now, make sure you subscribe, smash that bell, and leave us a review on the very platform on which you're currently listening. You can follow us on social media at DiabolicalPod and follow David at Quantick. Next time we'll be back with a regular episode, but stay tuned for future guest appearances to see how they rank against our inaugural diabolical mind, David Quantick. Until then, remember, everything will be alright in the end. And if it isn't alright, then it isn't the end.
I was so pleased you agreed to do it. And speaking of your books, I have two of them here. Thoroughly enjoyed Ricky's Hand and Night Train.
Thank you.
That's
very kind. Thank you.
Some interesting parallels, without wishing to spoil Ricky's Hand, with the film choice that you picked. In terms of time travel and very good read. And also, before you came on, we were discussing Book of Love, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Great premise. Did any of that, not the romance because you're a married man, but did you ever meet one of your...
You saying there's no romance in marriage?
No, not with someone outside of your marriage, is what I mean. Not with the translator of your book. But was that inspired by anything in particular?
No, I went for a drink with a man I knew who was a translator. And when he was talking, I just suddenly asked him if anybody had ever translated a book, mistranslated it so much that they radically changed the meaning. Because translation is a political tool, and throughout the years, people have translated things in different ways. And then while he was talking, I just thought, well, this is a rom-com. What if you had a stereotypical uptight British person and a stereotypical Latina woman, and his book was really fucking boring, and her translation was really sexy and exciting, like 50 Shades of Grey almost.
Yeah.
And that just seemed really funny. And it was.
Yeah, it was such a great concept. And we were just saying as well, Sam Claflin is really good. He played Oswald Mosley in Peaky Blinders. And
that's right.
It's quite a different role for him, this one. He's
got
not
range.
just the stereotypical uptight Brit, he may be the most uptight Brit character I've ever seen in a rom-com.
Yeah, he's also Mycroft Holmes in the Enola Holmes movie, so he definitely specialises in people with a pickle up their arse, as the Americans say.
But yeah, I would highly recommend that as well.
Well, thank you. I would really like to.
I don't think we need to recommend everything else you've been involved in because it's,
No, stop recommending things.
Yeah. I just think everybody, if they haven't seen it already, they probably won't be listening to this.
Is that it?